a word that you've heard very frequently in both the civics chapters we've done is free and fair elections. I ask you one question. How do I necessarily know that India's elections are free and fair and not necessarily prefixed like, say, a China or a Pakistan? One, very often in our country, since independence or since 1950 when we became a republic, have the current governments at both the national and the state level, they have actually lost. So the only way they could have lost was if they did not rig or if they did not use unfair means to win the next election. Also, very often the currently ruling MPs, members of parliaments, members of legislative assembly elections, almost half of them to be precise, lose when they stand up for re-election. Another indicator of a free and a fair election. Also very often parties with rich and criminal background, extremely rich and criminal, and candidates who are extremely rich and also those with criminal background, they obviously use all kinds of their social influence, monetary influence, etc. They still end up losing elections. So maybe the voter actually accepts money, but he or she votes to whom the voter wants to anyways. And lastly, accept very, very few outcomes. Generally speaking, the defeated party or the defeated candidate accepts the outcome of the election, accepts the verdict of the voters, accepts the results that the election commission have given. So these 4 pointers specifically tell us that India's elections are free and fair. Which 4 points? One, very often the national and the state governments lose elections in our country. Very often the current MPs and MLAs lose the elections, the next election. Candidates with criminal backgrounds, with extreme money power also lose elections in our country. Generally speaking, the defeated party accepts the verdict of the voters, accepts the result given out by the election commission. Finally, what are the challenges offered to political parties, or what are the challenges to our political system? One is absolutely candidates with extreme money power who also typically and generally speaking have a criminal background. Two, very often parties are really dominated by families rather than, of course, if there are good people within families, it's good, but generally speaking, there needs to be merit, there needs to be desire to serve, and there needs to be an aptitude to do social service. So some political parties are dominated by families. Third, and I'd say this is very important, and one of the reasons why educated class doesn't like to vote is that very little, or the political parties generally are guilty of not offering a good enough choice of candidates to voters. Most candidates have either no education or no past social body of work or criminal charges against them. Some of them have all of these put together. Very few candidates who are educated, who have done a great social body of work, who have the incentive to serve. Very, very few candidates you'll find like that. Even if you do, they are not winnable. So one of the reasons why the educated class or the richer sections find it, or they have a lethargy or a resistance to inertia to vote, so to speak. So generally speaking, this is what our electoral politics is all about. I want you to thoroughly go through all of these videos in a chronological order. For the next day after tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. there will be a homework submission of this chapter, immediately followed by a test at 4:30 p.m. itself. In these 48 hours in between, I want you to post doubts you may have in this chapter in my personal WhatsApp. I'll be responding either in video form or through messages on the group, so that if it is someone else's doubt also, they also benefit. I want you to also thoroughly do the homework. Writing SST really takes, I mean, learning SST will improve your SST, but writing SST or learning and writing SST will take it to the next level, will maybe make you cross 90 plus. So do that. I'll be posting the homework questions around this time tomorrow. Day after tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. is the submission, immediately followed by the test. And I hope in the interim period you ask doubts and we as a class have a greater understanding of this chapter.